Oh, we're live.
You're live. Hi, everyone. This is so exciting. We have a live edition of Hidden Gems. This is what we do when we are super busy and we need more time to watch the movies, or we just need more time in general. So I'm Phil Rachel Wagner. Ryan is here.
Hey, Rachel, it's great to be with you as always. And just to add on to that, it's also a great way for us to interact with all of you. You can send us questions or comments, and we can just play off that and answer them. And I like that. I like the spirit of that.
I do too. I think it's a lot of fun, and we get some really good questions. So if you're watching, then please give us your questions, or if you want more feedback, please do, because it's a lot of fun. So yes, so we decided, because we hadn't done what we call the follow-up post for quite a while, and so we thought it would be fun, instead of doing me watch 5 of your movies and you watch 5 of my movies, we would do them in 2 separate episodes. So this week is going to be you watching 5 of my movies, recommendations, and then next week will be me watching 5 of yours. And so give us basically both a little bit extra time.
Yeah, and it's also really fun because it's the question of, does the one person like what the other person recommends, or do they not? And there's a bit of a crapshoot factor to it, and I do like that. Spoiler alert: I liked everything that you recommended.
Yes.
So there's not too much of a mystery there, but there's often times where I've recommended stuff and you didn't like it. I think in our first Canopy episode, I recommended Hard 8, which was Paul Thomas Anderson's first movie, and you weren't necessarily a big fan of that. And I get it. It's not his best work, but I really like Philip Baker Hall's performance in that movie. But it's nice. We get to see what each other's tastes are, and hopefully the 5 I've recommended aren't like, I think we need to end this now, and then we don't speak to each other for 6 months.
Yeah, it's whether you like it or don't like it, it's fun to see into each other's personalities and just have a good conversation about movies and what we like and what we don't like. And I'm always difficult when it comes to sci-fi.
But I think that's why we work so well. It's because you like certain things and I like certain things, and we fill in each other's gaps, if that makes any sense.
I think so. I think it does. And I think that also, there's just lots of things that I think we complement. Obviously you're a man, I'm a woman. I'm older than you, you're younger than me. We have like enough differences that it makes it interesting.
Yeah, and generational as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be fun. And like I said, send in your comments and questions about what we're going to talk about. And I guess let's dive in and talk about the first. I did go a little rom-com heavy on this one. I don't know. A little. Yeah, sorry about that. That was just the first things that came to my mind. But let's talk about IQ as the first recommendation that I gave. Which streaming service was this on?
This was on Amazon, and so, and in my Twitter post about it, I do say it is on Amazon. So, and I will say that if you all have not seen it, I do recommend it, because I really did enjoy this movie. I really enjoyed Walter Matthau as Einstein. I like Walter Matthau in like 90% of the stuff he was in. He could go very serious, like in The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, not the remake, the original, which I've recommended on the show before. And he can also be very funny, like his other stuff, like The Odd Couple, or pretty much anything with Neil Simon writing and directing. But here he's Albert Einstein, and at first when I heard this premise, I was like, so wait, is Albert Einstein like an imaginary friend, or is he like Tim Robbins's idol, and like during a sleepy night he awakes and like Albert Einstein appears in a dream? And it was like, no, this takes place in like the mid 30s or the early 30s, somewhere in that general vicinity, when Albert Einstein is very much alive. And I was like, so wait, and then I was like, oh, so Albert Einstein is like living in this time. And so that cleared a lot of stuff up for me. And on the whole, I really did enjoy this movie. Like I said, Mathau's great. Tim Robbins is really good. The more I think about it, because I just rewatched Shawshank Redemption for the AFI project, and he's excellent in that. It makes you think, like, why wasn't Tim Robbins more of a big deal? I mean, you could make the argument that he was out and about in the early 90s when like leading men were like everywhere, like Tom Hanks, Denzel. I could go on, but he was subtly doing some pretty great work in the early 90s, like Shawshank and Your IQ. And I'm sure there are other things, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. But
yeah, I think that this movie is very underrated. I think that he and Meg Ryan have really nice chemistry. I think it's funny. I think it's very sweet. Obviously, it's fictional, but it's kind of what you might imagine Albert Einstein would be like. And I think that the whole story is just very charming, and I love Albert Einstein and these friends of his, these two friends, and it kind of reminds me of there's this author Alexander McCall Smith, and he has a whole series called the Portuguese Irregular Verbs series, which are about this language professor named Professor von Ingelfeld and his friends. And it's he just actually got a new one, which I haven't read yet, but I'm very excited about it. But it's the Portuguese irregular verbs, the unusual uses for olive oil, the finer points of sausage jogs, and the newest one is called Your Inner Hedgehog, about this Professor von Ingelfeld, professor of linguistics.
Eaglefeld. That sounds like a Lord of the Rings name.
I know.
Like presenting my uncle's brother, Eaglefeld.
Yeah, and he's just this pedantic who has an opinion on everything and very funny. And I feel like these three guys are kind of that same way. And I love that whole scene when they're kind of feeding him the answers to the quiz.
During the quiz, and he's and Tim Robbins is like, I'm drawing blanks, and he looks up, and they're just like, huh! And
they get the ice out and putting it over a cube just so he knows how.
Yeah, that was great. Like, very, very funny stuff. And when I saw those three appear for the first time, I'm like, oh no, these are the side characters that are going to be funny, but are instead going to be just annoying. But no, they were actually quite the opposite. They were actually they actually had their moments.
Yeah, and they got all of that stuff up in the tree, and they're like, we can use you for lots of things. And they're like,
yeah,
because he's so tall. I don't know. I think it's a very underrated rom-com. I maybe people were just getting a little sick of Meg Ryan. I don't know, but I don't know why it's kind of ignored. She
was a big deal around this time still.
I know. Right? I think it was starting to what year was this? The IQ came out.
Either 93 or 94.
Oh, again, 94. Yeah, so it wasn't even that late because You've Got Mail came out in 98. So I don't know. It's always a weird thing why things hit and why things don't hit.
Yeah, but talk about having an amazing 94. Let's talk about Tim Robbins for a sec, because he was in Shawshank and in this movie in the same year.
That's true. Yeah, that I forgot that it was so early. And they have who is it that plays Eisenhower? Keen Curtis is his name, but I liked him as Eisenhower in this. It was funny.
He was Robbins was also in Hudsucker Proxy in 94, and this movie called Ready to Wear, directed by Robert Altman and starring Sophia Loren and Julia Roberts. So Kim Basinger. So Robbins was a busy man in 94.
Hey, sure was. Wow.
I was actually just thinking about this because I'm going to be reviewing Shawshank for the AFI project, cheap plug. But I was just thinking about 94. 94 was a subtly really great year for movies. You had Forrest Gump, Shawshank, Pulp Fiction. Like, I could talk about 94 forever and ever. Like, people rant and rave about how 99 was an epic year for movies, and it was. You know, Matrix, Fight Club, American Beauty to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But
you had Lion King in 94.
Lion King, yeah. So, but big. 94 is a sleeper hit for movies that year.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, and I don't know. It's just I love Walter Matthau in this. He's so charming.
Well, he's charming in most of the stuff that he was in. Like even if he's like Felix Unger, who is like the main antagonist to Jack Lemmon's character, who's like the clean freak, and Felix Unger is the messy one. Like even there, he's like he's still charismatic. You kind of like him there, and you
he throws the spaghetti. Now it's garbage.
among now it's garbage.
Yeah. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really am. And they have a lot of cute lines about the science of romance, the science of the heart.
And also give credit to Stephen Fry for playing I want to say Meg Ryan's boyfriend in the movie, because
her fiance.
If you need someone to play like just a genuine ass, you call Stephen Fry.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Jeeves and Wooster?
No, I've never even heard of it.
It's really fun. It's him and Hugh Laurie, and Stephen Fry plays Jeeves, who is his valet, and Hugh Laurie is Wooster, and he's kind of a fop. He's kind of ridiculous, and so it's basically kind of Jeeves as his valet gets him out of a lot of trouble and kind of saves the day. And it's very funny. It's a very good show if you ever get
Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie were everywhere for a certain amount of time. They had their own show on the BBC called A Bit of Fry and Laurie, which just sounds like one of the most English titles I think I've ever heard of a show. I always say to myself in an accent like, A Bit of Fry and Laurie.
Yeah, I think you can watch. Oh wait, never mind. I was gonna say it was on Amazon, but it looks like it's not. It's got to be on one of the streaming services. So keep an eye out for Jeeves and Wooster. It's delightful. But so all right. Well, what was the next one that you watched that I recommended?
The next one you gave me was Children of Heaven. This is on HBO Max, and I was actually going to ask you this. What nationality is this? Because I was assuming that the dialogue they were speaking is Farsi.
So this is a Iraqi, I think. Let me make sure I get that right. It's Iranian family drama, and it is the language is actually Persian in the movie, and it doesn't have a lot of It doesn't have a lot of words. It's pretty sparse, but it's one of those movies that the plot is ultra simple. It's just about two kids sharing a pair of shoes. But I at least thought it was so cute.
Yeah, this is sometimes a very brutal movie to watch, at least for me, because when the little girl was crying over I'm gonna get in trouble, the shoes are ruined, I'm like, just go buy a new pair. And I'm like, oh wait, they're kind of poor, so they can't. And this is one of those movies that just makes me grateful for the things that I have, because in other places in the world, they have it much worse, especially in the past year with COVID and all of that. So this is one of those movies that makes you check yourself before you wreck yourself, as I like to say.
Because she has a pair of shoes, but then it actually gets taken by, she sets them down and on a cart she didn't know was a cart, and they get taken away. And so she's left without any shoes. And so her and her brother decide to switch shoes. And so when he's at school, she'll have the shoes, and then they meet halfway during the day, and then she gets the shoes, and all that goes pretty well for a while, but then they start to be late and start to miss things and start to have problems. And it's so
all downhill
cute.
from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad, but it's also adorable. These two little kids are so cute.
And it all culminates in this I was going to say road race, but it all goes towards this run, and just the whole build up to the run itself is great because the little boy learns about the run, but it's too late, and so he has to go to the gym teacher, and he's like, "Can you please let me in?" And he's like, "No, you missed it." And then he's like on his knees begging this coach, "You're like, please put me in. I know I will win." And he just starts crying, and I'm just like, "God, coach, just put him in there. He's ready. Let's let the rubber meet the road here."
Yeah.
And
the prize for winning the race is a pair of shoes, sneakers.
Third place.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why he wants to enter the race.
And should I spoil what happens in the race?
I think it's okay. Yeah.
Because, well, the boy eventually wins, but that's not really what he wanted. He wanted to finish third so he could win the shoes. He could care less about everything else.
Right.
And it's bittersweet because, it's like he's finally in third, and then the boy grabs him by the back and shoves him down as you're running, like, "You little piece of..." I hated him for that.
Yeah.
And then he got up and he runs and he wins, and like, he won. Like, oh crap, he won. That means he can't get the shoes, and like that. Those are going to the third place one, and it's one of those where it's like, he won. Oh, he won. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, and in the end, you see him without his shoes, and he's got all the blisters on his feet, and
Yeah.
I mean, it is sad. But also very endearing. I think that's maybe the better word. It's very endearing, and the relationship between the sister and the brother is so sweet and lovely. And I think you could have a conversation about this movie with your kids and talk about people that are in need and how we can maybe help, how we can be kinder. Because you also have her having this friend whose father is very wasteful and just wasting the shoes and doesn't understand how much that means to her. And so you got that kind of element as well. And it's really good.
Yeah, and the teachers in this movie they made me laugh a little because the little girl, she's in class and she's like doing her assignment. Then she raises her hand and like, "What time is it?" And the teacher's like, "You still have time to write." And it's like, lady, that's not what she asked. She asked what time it was.
Yeah, and he's totally this father of their and the friend are totally clueless up to the needs of those around them. They just treat it like, oh, who cares? Shoes are shoes. And how often can we be like that and be inconsiderate of those around us?
My favorite scene in the movie is when the little boy and his father are going to the rich neighborhoods, and they're like, "Hey, you need a gardener? Hey, you need a gardener?" And they go door to door, and it's all followed up by the one moment where they're going down the hill and their bike and the brakes aren't working, and just they end up crashing. I was like, I was watching that through my fingers. I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna crash!" Mm-hmm. And it's not as bad as one might think, but still, it's just like, oh God, please don't let them crash, and they do, and it sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even when the cart is accidentally taking away her shoes at the beginning, you're like, no, don't take her shoes. But yeah, this one, I think if people are kind of afraid of foreign films, like you shouldn't be, first of all, but second of all, this one is very approachable. It doesn't have that much dialogue. It's easy to follow what's going on. And I think, people will enjoy it. It's a good gateway, I think, if you're trying to introduce people to these films. I covered it for my Foreign Movie Month a couple of years ago for Family Movie Night. And I think it's a really good one to start if you're trying to introduce your kids to world cinema. It's a good one, I think.
Yeah, it's a good gateway drug, and then years later they can watch Battle Royale and then be like, "What madness is this?"
Yeah, that's right. Well, cool. I'm glad you liked that one. That was a little maybe more of a risk of a pick. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So now, what was your next thing you watched?
So the next thing I watched is the first couple episodes, the first two of Kim's Convenience.
Yay!
And when I texted you that I was watching it, I believe you sent me the message of, if you watch it all weekend, I will support you.
If you become obsessive about it like me, I will support you.
And if I didn't have other things I had to tend to, I would have watched it, because I thought the show was really, really good. It reminded me a lot of the show All in the Family. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Archie Bunker and his daughter Gloria and Edith and Mike Stivic, played by Rob Reiner, who we all know who he is. But it's not as coarse as All in the Family was, but I think the dynamics are kind of similar. You have Mr. Kim, who's kind of tone deaf, but his heart is in the right place. The first episode is about how he offers a gay discount.
Yeah.
And one customer walks up to him and is like, "How do you know someone's gay?" And he's like, "I have gaydar." And it's like, well, he would have been canceled in America. That's for sure. Like,
yeah.
CDC delivering that near the knuckle content there for you.
Because this show is about a family that runs a Korean Canadian family that runs a convenience store in Toronto. And so you get to follow the story of Mr. Kim, who's known as Appa in the show, and then Mrs. Kim, who's known as Uma in the show. And then you have their daughter, Janet, and the son, Jung. And it's kind of crazy because you get sort of two shows in one when you watch Kim Convenience, because there's all of the sort of the family stuff with the family comedy stuff, kind of similar to maybe like a Roseanne or Cosby Show or something like that in the store side. But then you get the stuff at the handy car rental store with Jung and Shannon and Kimchi over there. And that becomes sort of a Parks and Recreation, The Office, kind of more of a feel. And so you get both shows in one show, and both are done, in my opinion, so well and are just so funny and heartwarming. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, when I first saw Jung for the first time, I was like, wait, is it pronounced Jung or Young? Because there's this author named Carl Jung that I read quite a bit of. And so it's like, is it Jung or Young? And I'm saying Jung, right?
I think it's Jung, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to go with. And when I first saw this character, and then they had the whole scene where they sent Mr. Kim to the car rental. I'm like, oh, he's going to see his son. And I'm like, wait, why are they making a big deal out of this? And then I asked you about it, and it turns out that like they're having some friction. And then Jung got into some drugs or something like that.
Yeah. So the story is that Jung got arrested in high school, and he had to be in juvie because he was selling marijuana and I don't know about other drugs, but anyway, he was arrested, and this was a huge, huge traumatic thing for this family to have to go through. And they basically Appa and Jung didn't speak for a long time. And it's not until that Uma and Jung are on a better relationship, but it's just really struck the family. And that's why a lot of people were really sad about the sixth season getting canceled. It's not we obviously wanted a sixth season regardless because we love the show, but we also didn't get that sense of closure with Jung and Mr. and Appa. And that would have been really nice. I actually haven't watched the final episode aired this week. I haven't watched it yet up in Canada, but we're all kind of sad because we love the show.
Yeah,
And
the
it's so
logical ending would be Young and Appa finally burying the hatchet. I mean,
yeah.
you would think.
I know that's what I want. I wish they could at least do a movie or something like that to kind of tie all the loose ends. And
Maybe they'll pull a Serenity and do finish up all the Firefly stuff because Firefly only got the one season.
right. And I mean, and we're lucky to have 5 seasons, but I just loved the show so much. And it's hard too because the actors and all the crew and everything else were all planning on doing it. And just because the creators decided they were over it, all these people lost their jobs and it sucks.
Like, up, we're done with this. We're moving on. It's like,
Yeah, like you think you could do one more year that had been promised and end everything on the right note. To just cancel it seems ridiculous.
or at least write it long enough for like a logical conclusion. Don't just like say, like, oh, there goes the plug. It's been pulled. Like, always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah, you could even do like 10 episodes if you wanted. Like, wouldn't necessarily have to be 22. It could be a shorter season. I mean, anything I think we'd take at this point. But nevertheless, the show is still great. I think it is so funny. It's so heartfelt. It's got, I mean, I just can't imagine anybody not liking it. Like, it has a little bit of cussing, a little bit of it, maybe, I guess, but like, that's the only thing I can picture somebody not liking. I just think everybody should like this show. It's so good.
I think it's a show for everyone, personally.
Yeah.
Like older people can get into it, younger people can get into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't like try to be like overly 2010s. Like, it tries to be like, let's take a selfie, like dumb stuff like that. It's weirdly feels very timeless, in that you could put a show like this in, like, I mean, the first episode revolves around a gay pride parade, so I'm not sure how well that would be received in like the 80s or something like that. But I mean, you could pretty much put this premise in any era, and I think it could work.
I think so too. And also, there's just so many points where you can relate to it. Like, whether if you've had a kind of a desk job kind of thing, then you're going to laugh at the handy parts. There's relationship drama, there's family drama, and there's so many great supporting characters that you just see off and on. Like the I forget his name, but the man from the Iranian man who comes in and makes comments. There's some really funny stuff between them. There's Mr. Chen who comes in. They're really funny. And what's it? Julio, I think is his name. He's in the first episode, comes in and about the gay discount. That's very funny. And I love Gerard, who comes in, I think, later season and becomes Janet's roommate, and he's really great. And I love Terrence at the handy. He's hilarious. I love Pastor Nina at the church. She's so good.
Have not gotten to her yet.
This is really funny. And they had the second to last episode had the most touching story about Uma feeling so bad because everybody that she prays for has horrible things happen to her. And this beautiful storyline about faith and made me cry. And Pastor Nina is in it, and she's great. And I don't know, it's just a show that manages to be so many things all at once, which I think is very impressive. So I'm glad you got to watch it. The first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think you got me hooked. I think I'm gonna have to watch the rest. This and Heartland.
I'll be so excited to see on your on the text you as you continue to watch and be like, oh yeah, that's such a good episode. Maybe once you finish like a first or second season, we'll do a special breakdown episode or something.
Yeah, I'm down for that totally.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. All right. Well, what did you watch after that?
So next is from the Peacock Network, and it was something new. And when I was talking to my parents about what I was watching, I mentioned something new, and my mom was like, "Oh, I saw that. That's really good." And she has very good taste, so I was
Oh,
looking forward to it. And I actually think this movie is actually pretty underrated.
right?
Uh,
Yes.
when I saw when I saw the main guy, I was like, "Oh my god, that's the Mentalist!" And I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the show The Mentalist on CBS lasted for like a solid decade, or at least that's how long it felt like. And I
Yeah.
only watched a few episodes, but I always saw the promos all the time because the show was on when it was in the middle of my Amazing Race fandom. So I was just like Mentalist promo again, but then I never put two and two together until I saw him. I'm like, oh my god, that's the Mentalist, and he's been in other things as well. And I looked up his IMDb, and he's been in bit parts and other things, but I'll always know him as the Mentalist.
Yeah, I think if this came out now, it would be a lot more praised for what it's trying to do, because you have a Black director and a that's writing about this relationship between this Black woman and this white man, and they talk about the Black tax that these professional Black women have to pay in order to be successful in their careers. And obviously that's not something I can comment on or know about, but anyway, it's discussed within the movie, and it's she kind of has this assumption that she will only date black men. And then that this man comes in as her gardener and starts to kind of change maybe what she will accept and what she can do. And I just really like it. I think they have huge chemistry. I think it tries to talk about a lot of different things, and maybe it's not perfect. Like I said, I can't really speak to how well it talks about these issues, but it feels authentic to me. And I think that Sanaa Lathan is really good. And I've always thought she was very underrated as an actress. And I think she should get more roles because I think she's really good.
Yeah, and Simon Baker, that was the dude's name. He was in Devil Wears Prada. He was in
oh yeah, he was in Devil. I forgot he was in that.
Kristen Thompson or Christian Thompson. He was also in Land of the Dead, which I think is really underrated. So yeah, he's been everywhere. And Sanaa Lathan, who is the main in Something New, she was the main lead in Alien vs. Predator, which is a movie that I like, though a lot of people dislike. I mean, I get why, but I've always liked it. She was also in Love and Basketball, and she was Vanessa, the main romantic lead for Blade and Blade. So she's been subtly everywhere.
Yeah, she's good.
There's a character in this movie named Suzette, which is also my mom's name. And so whenever I heard Suzette, I'm like, my mom's not in the movie, is she?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think it tries to talk about some important things that we need to be addressing. And I think it does it in a good way. And I think it has really great chemistry. And I don't know, I just think it deserves more love than it gets. So I agree with you. I think it's underrated.
Yeah, my favorite scene in the movie is when she goes to I want to say wedding, when she is officially broken up with Simon Baker, and she goes to the bathroom just to let out her emotions, and her dad goes into the ladies' room, and when one lady's like, "What are you doing here?" and he's like, "I'm a doctor. Just do your thing." and he gives this really great speech about love and all of that. And he said, when I first met your mom, we didn't have a pot to piss in, and just he gives this great speech. It's so great that she just gets out of the stall and just hugs him in the middle of it. That's how good it is.
And he says, it's not like he's a green alien.
I like that line as well. That was really good.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
And shout out to Alfre Woodard, who plays her mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's always good. 12 Years a Slave. There's so many good roles that she's done over the years. All right. Well, last one is definitely the biggest risk, most experimental of any that I recommended.
That's for sure. So the last one is The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. This is on HBO Max. And I have a lot of respect for the animation, but this is like one of the weirdest movies I've ever watched. Whether that's a good or a bad thing is completely up to you. But
Yeah.
when it was over, I felt like I was just come down off an acid trip, and that almost never happens. Like, I've even seen the Speed Racer movie from the Wachowskis, and that movie is just like that for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Fine.
If anybody watched my first of my top 50 animated films, this was in, I think, at like number 43 or 4. And it's crazy. It's bonkers. I recognize it's definitely not going to be for everyone. It's basically about this girl who goes on this bender after she graduates from school, and she just drinks the whole night long. But it's really beautiful. The animation is amazing, and it's very kind of surrealist, and at times it's a musical, at times it's funny, at times it's a romance, at times. And I just think it's really fun and different. And
this might be a weird comparison, but in Tampa, Florida, which is about an hour-ish from where I live, there's a museum dedicated to the artwork of Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
And his artwork is very surrealist and just very bizarre. Mm-hmm. Like, just it's crazy stuff. The Night is Short, Walk On Girl is like you get drunk and just fall face first into a Salvador Dali painting. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as a compliment.
It's kind of like if you enjoy the pink elephants on parade in Dumbo, if you think that's fun, then you'll probably enjoy this with a little bit of an anime flair. The colors are so bright. The music is so infectious that you just end up having a good time. And
one of my favorite scenes is when the main girl encounters this drunk guy on the bar stool, and he's like, "You should do what you want," and she's like, "Yeah," like she thinks he's giving her this motivational pep talk, when in reality she's just trying to get in the sack. And by the time she realizes it, on like the "you could do it," by that point she just straight up punches him in the face and knocks him down.
She does.
Like, the animation kind of reminded me, like I said, of Salvador Dali, but also in a weird way, kind of like kind of Chuck Jones style of animation, like how he would animate like Tom getting drunk in Tom and Jerry. I know that's a weird tangent, but it spoke to me the most.
Yeah, when we did this for Obscure Animation a while ago, and I read off a list that he had said the director, Masaki Yuasa, he always does really experimental stuff, and he listed off the different influences of his career. And one of the things that he said is Tex Avery, which is very similar to Chuck Jones.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So if you haven't checked out that Obscure Animation, you should. It's a fun one that we talked about, because I mean, it's kind of funny that two Mormon podcasters could have a fun time with The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, but that's what happened. So we don't drink, but we still enjoyed the movie.
So like I said, I have a lot of respect for it from a technical standpoint, but I think I may just have to watch this again just to understand what happened.
I can understand that. I really, this, like the second half of the movie, it kind of becomes sort of a mini musical, which is really random, but I enjoy it. And these kind of movies that I don't know, it's sort of like this is like it's similar to a Terrence Malick movie in a way. Obviously, Terrence Malick is like the subdued version of this, but you either go with what they're going, or you don't. You know, you just don't get it. And it's not your art. It doesn't inspire you. It's kind of the same thing with something like Tree of Life, which is just either go with where Terrence Malick is going, or you don't, and it doesn't speak to you, and it's not your art, and that's fine. But I think that that's the case here with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never thought I would see Night is Short, Walk On Girl compared to The Tree of Life, but There we go.
They're both about finding the joy in life, right?
I suppose.
So there we go. That is your 5 movies. What do you think in total of my recommendations?
Outside, I thought Night Ashore Walk On Girl was very bizarre, and I have to think about it. But the rest, I thoroughly enjoyed. I'll be definitely watching more of Kim's Convenience, and just on the whole, I thoroughly enjoyed all of your picks for me. Now, as far as my picks for you, well, I'm going to be very fascinated to see what you thought, because I threw you some curveballs, and here's to hoping that.
Should we announce what you picked for me, or wait till next week?
No, let's go ahead and say.
So I'm going to be watching Grumpy Old Men on HBO Max. Apocalypto, that's the one I'm the most kind of intimidated by.
That's the one I was like, let's see how this goes. That's the one I was most like, I'll be interested to see if she even likes it, or if she hates it, and then she'll just burn all bridges with me.
That one will be out of my comfort zone, but that's the whole point of this exercise, right? So it's on Canopy, and then Thundercats, 1985 version on Hulu. So that'll be fun. A couple episodes. Check that out. And then Where Eagles Dare on Hoopla. So that will be fun. I never even heard of that until you mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite World War II movies. It's certainly up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited about that. And then Buried, and this is on Peacock. This is Ryan Reynolds, right?
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds stuck in a box for 90 minutes.
So that'll be fun. I have never seen that. I've never seen. I think I might have seen Grumpy Old Men before. But if I had, it'd been a long, long time. So it's basically like watching it new. So yeah, that'll be pretty fun. I'll be watching those all over the next week. So
I am looking forward to hearing all about it.
That'll be great. So there we go. That is our Hidden Gems for this week. And let us know, if you are listening, what you think of these 5 films that I had Ryan watch. And that will be a lot of fun. And Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there's, of course, my YouTube channel, which is just called Ryan Cam. I released 3 AFI project videos this week for A Clockwork Orange, Saving Private Ryan, and crap, now I can't think of the other one. My brain is just shutting off. It's like, it's the weekend, time to turn off now. And Tootsie, that's the other one, Tootsie. Okay. So all of those are now on my channel. I actually uploaded everything that I promised myself I would upload on the day that I said that I would do it. I'm getting better at this, folks. Mm-hmm. And then this coming Sunday, I'll be dropping my first reaction to the Ghibli film Pompoko. And I watched about halfway through it now, and well, the movie's very weird, but I am actually thoroughly enjoying it. And then elsewhere on the docket, I have the month planned on my board over here. I got AFI project videos for Shawshank Redemption, for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, for Silence of the Lambs, and then next Sunday, I'm going to be talking about La La Land from Damien Chazelle. I think the movie has fallen under the radar, and I want to rewatch it to see if that's become deserved, or if I think it's just as good as Whiplash, if not better. So there's a lot to look forward to on my channel. If you haven't checked me out, please do.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. City of Stars. The only thing that
shining just for me.
The only thing that the La La Land had against it was the same year as Moana and Sing Street.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like musicals. I feel like nowadays La La Land is primarily known because it almost won the Oscar that year instead of Moonlight, and when Warren Beatty had his senior moment.
Yeah. Oh, was that Warren Beatty? I forgot.
Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway.
Oh, it was Faye. I thought it was Jane Fonda, but you're right. It was Jane Fonda the next year who did Parasite. That's right. Yeah, so you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. I'm going to be having the next episode in my top 50 animated films countdown. So it'll be 40 to 31. And it's a pretty eclectic group, so I'm really proud of it. And then also I'm going to have another Barbie movie review for Family Movie Night this week. It's Barbie and the Pink Shoes, which is actually a really good one. And then also we have Obscure Animation next week with Mary and Max, which is such a cute movie. And then on Friday will be our live episode of me watching Ryan's suggestions. So all that's happening over on Rachel's Reviews. You'll also make sure to check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Lots of fun stuff coming up over there as well. And so thank you so much, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.